9 o'clock on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. You ready for the temperature roller coaster ride we're going to be on later this week? Tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in New York City, Aaron Katersky says former President Trump's arrived at the Manhattan courthouse for the start of his civil fraud trial brought against him by New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Trump's attorneys and the Attorney General's office both asked the judge for some clarity about what it means to dissolve all of his business certificates, how quickly that has to happen, how that process works, when it has to happen isn't entirely clear, but it does threaten Trump's control of at least 3 properties here in New York.
Trump's attorneys and the Attorney General's office both asking the judge for some clarity about what it means. Having presided over a bipartisan vote to keep the government funded through mid-November, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy now facing a challenge to his leadership from his right flank. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz says he'll move to oust McCarthy.
If at this time next week Kevin McCarthy is still Speaker of the House, it will be because the Democrats bailed him out, and he can be their Speaker, not mine.
Well, Speaker McCarthy says bring it, and the only way for Gaetz' effort to succeed is for Democrats to vote along with him. Federal student loan payments set to resume after being put on hold for more than 3 years during the pandemic. Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi says he's worried about retail spending as a result.
It is a headwind to spending, and we need consumers to stay in the game. That's the reason why the economy's been able to avoid recession.
28 million borrowers with an average payment of $200 to $300. And look where the Powerball jackpot is again.
No grand prize winner in Saturday night's Powerball lottery, so up the jackpot goes with the top prize in tonight's drawing, $1.04 billion, Powerball's 4th largest ever. These folks buying tickets in New York City and already have the money spent.
Vacations, pay all my debts.
I would share the money with the poor people, with the people that need. I will make it like a big house.
To give away like 90% of whatever the lump sum is, and I'll stay with 10%. That should be more than enough.
First, you have to beat the odds, one in more than 292 million.
That is Dave Packer reporting, and the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Good morning. Mason is filling in for the one and only Mac Maury. What's up, Mason?
How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Mac is out sick today.
Sick.
I can't help but be the king of noticing things.
I think he just wants days off.
I feel like the Chiefs had Sunday Night Football last night.
That is also true.
For those of you that don't pay attention to football, that's Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team. So that's Mac's favorite team.
That's what it's going to be now. It's no longer the Kansas City Chiefs.
No,
it's Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
It's Taylor Swift's boyfriend. It's Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team. So
that's awesome.
I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. I just feel like they had Sunday Night Football and
just play Taylor Swift songs for all the openers now for the rest of the show.
I mean, I feel like, maybe it was all like the quick cutaways to Taylor's reaction that kind of gave him sickness, motion sickness or something. I don't know.
Whiplash from bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know, a little weird. I'm just kidding. I hope Mac's okay. We're gonna get Mac is like just something terrible, like malaria. Be like, oh, dude, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that, brother Mac.
That would be our luck, right? Yeah.
Good luck with your malaria. Sorry, I didn't expect to start the show joking about malaria, but here we are. I also didn't expect to start the show seeing Donald Trump on the TV in court. Donald Trump, I'm sure, didn't want to be there today, but he showed up, Mac. In case you're listening, Trump showed up to court. We're going to have audio. Trump is speaking now in front of a packed courtroom in New York City. I find it odd that New York, they cry. They don't have money for the migrant crisis that they encouraged and brought upon themselves. But they have taxpayer funds to go after Donald Trump every which way from Sunday. So we'll be following that today as the show goes along. Also, the government shutdown has been averted. Oh, this is great news, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Kind of like, I don't know. I was looking forward to a government shutdown. Was it just me? Anybody else was like pro-government shutdown? I felt like we could have at least 15 days to slow the curve of spending. That would have been cool.
Just a little bit.
That would have been nice. But we don't get it. We didn't get that. In fact, they decided to fund the government. Apparently, no Ukraine money was added to this continuing resolution, which is, I guess, cool. I mean, it doesn't mean that Ukraine's not going to get money. It just means that they're not going to get money this way. As we all know, Ukraine will find a way to get money. If we know anything about Vladimir Zelensky, he wears a green sweatshirt and he gets money. That's like the two things you can certainly count on him to do.
Two things I'm lacking right there: green sweatshirt and money.
I'll get you a green sweatshirt.
I'd love one.
But I mean, this is where we're at. We know that they're going to get more money. They always seem to get more money. I mean, we've given them right around $200 million and change every day since February of 22. So let that sink in, right? I mean, the amount of money that we've given these guys is absolutely insane. It's astronomical. So they can say, hey, we didn't give them any money in this. It's not bad, but it's still bad. Still bad. We're still probably going to give them too much money. Just the way things trend. It's crazy. People will tell you, oh, there's no Ukraine funding. We're good. We're not. We're not a serious country. But as things are progressing, Matt Gaetz is really pissed off. He says McCarthy undercut him, worked with the Dems to get this thing pushed through, and he sat down with Jake Tapper over the weekend, and he said that he will be ousting McCarthy. Jake Tapper asked him when.
The House gavels back in tomorrow at noon. Are you going to make a motion to vacate?
Speaker McCarthy made an agreement with House conservatives in January, and since then he has been in brazen, repeated material breach of that agreement. This agreement that he made with Democrats to really blow past a lot of the spending guardrails we'd set up is a last straw. And then overnight I learned that Kevin McCarthy had a secret deal with Democrats on Ukraine. So as he was baiting Republicans to vote for a continuing resolution without Ukraine money, saying that we were going to jam the Senate on Ukraine, he then turns around and makes a secret deal. Now, I know you and I probably have different views on U.S. involvement in Ukraine, but however you think about that question, it should be subject to open review, analysis, and not some backroom deal.
So
I do
motion to vacate tomorrow?
I do intend to file a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy this week. I think we need to rip off the Band-Aid. I think we need to move on with new leadership that can be trustworthy.
So it'll be this week. May not be tomorrow. Or today, because this was yesterday. This week, a motion to oust McCarthy. Are you for that? Maria Bartiromo mentioned on her show yesterday, and it was a good point. You can call out Kevin McCarthy for having to work with Democrats for this continuing resolution, but Gaetz is going to have to work with Democrats to oust McCarthy. So whose side would you be on? Would you prefer McCarthy working with Democrats or Gaetz working with Democrats? 615-737-9986 if you want to weigh in on anything regarding the government shutdown. Phone lines are wide open, and I want to hear from you. It's a crazy weekend in news. But Matt Gaetz goes on, and he makes a solid point. He says no one trusts Kevin McCarthy, and I can't help but agree with him. I'm old enough to remember Kevin McCarthy saying that he would impeach Mayorkas on day one. Day one. Here we are, months later. The border is wide open, and Mayorkas still has his job. So does that mean that Kevin McCarthy shouldn't have his job? I tend to lean towards Gaetz personally. But Gaetz says on CNN with Jake Tapper, no one trusts McCarthy.
Look, the one thing everybody has in common is that nobody trusts Kevin McCarthy. He lied to Biden. He lied to House conservatives. He had appropriators marking to a different number altogether. And the reason we were backed up against this shutdown politics is not a bug of the system. It's a feature. That's
kind of been Gaetz' line. It's not a bug of the system. It's a feature. And he's right. The system loves this stuff. The system loves the funding. They love the cash flow. And it's a feature. It's absolutely a feature. But Matt Gaetz goes on, the only way McCarthy is going to be speaker at the end of this week is if the Democrats bail him out, at which point he's the Democrat speaker, Kevin McCarthy. Will the Democrats bail him out, or will Matt Gaetz cut a deal with Democrats?
The only way Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House at the end of this coming week is if Democrats bail him out. Now, they probably will. I actually think that when you believe in nothing, as Kevin McCarthy does, everything's negotiable.
Okay, but
I think he'll cut a deal with the Democrats.
Let's be honest here, though, because if you succeed in vacating him, you also will have to make a deal with the Democrats. You also will have to get Democratic votes to kick him out.
Absolutely. I will make no deal with Democrats and concede no terms to them. I actually think Democrats should vote against Speaker McCarthy for free. I don't think I should have to deal with them
so
anything.
You're not going to cut any deals with him?
Absolutely not. And I don't think that any Republicans that share my view on Speaker McCarthy would cut deals with Democrats. But here's the thing. I'm done owning Kevin McCarthy. Right? We made a deal at the end of in January to allow him to assume the speakership, and I'm not owning him anymore because he doesn't tell the truth. And so if Democrats want to own Kevin McCarthy by bailing him out, I can't stop him, but then he'll be their speaker, not mine.
So he'll be the Democrat speaker, like I said. I think you can't argue with Matt Gaetz working with the Democrats to oust McCarthy. A California Republican is just not a Republican at all. And I don't trust McCarthy as far as I can throw him. We're not seeing the results that we wanted to see with Kevin McCarthy, and he's not keeping the promises that he said he was going to keep. You can call Gaetz and his crew a fringe bunch of the Republican Party. I tend to think that that's the new move of the Republican Party, personally. I think that that's the way we're trending, and you see these neocons clinging for life to all of this. They can't believe Matt Gaetz is doing the things he does. Lindsey Graham went on the weekend talking heads. He was on CBS Face the Nation. He said ousting McCarthy would be a disaster for the future of the Republican Party. It's like, yeah, bro, your Republican Party. Your Republican Party, Lindsey Graham. Not the Republican Party I want. Not the Republican Party I'm sure a lot of our WTN listeners want. But your Republican Party, Lindsey Graham, yep. I can understand why that would be a disaster, getting rid of Kevin McCarthy. Graham literally said, we have to keep the government open. We have 45 days to fix both problems. I listened to Kevin closely. There will come out of the Senate soon a bill that will have 3 legs to it. Disaster funding, we need more, not less. Robust funding for Ukraine to get them through the next fighting season, classic Lindsey Graham fashion. And he also wanted robust funding for Ukraine, not $24 billion in a major effort to secure our border. And he believes that there's bipartisan support in the Senate to do both. I don't support funding for Ukraine. Do you support funding for Ukraine? I mean, we've given Ukraine $165 billion with a B. With that $165 billion, all right, we could have given $50 million to every family impacted by the Maui wildfires. We could give every homeless veteran in this country $2 million. We could have fixed Flint, Michigan's water system. Oh, yeah. Oh, weird. Yeah. Still not fixed. We could have built 6 border walls with the money that we've given Ukraine. So, yeah, Lindsey Graham, I'm sure that you are very worried that this is a disaster for the future of the Republican Party, and to which I say good, because it's your Republican Party that created most of this mess, Lindsey Graham. Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, the old school neocon Republican Party. I know Lindsey Graham has never found a war that he didn't want to send our boys to fight in, but get real. Get real. It would be a disaster for the Republican Party. It would, Lindsey. Your Republican Party. You know, and Matt Gaetz is accused of this being a personal vendetta. Is this a personal thing between you and McCarthy? Jake Tapper asks him.
What do you say to these conservatives, these Republicans?
Well, I think what's really stupid is sitting atop a $33 trillion debt, facing $2.2 trillion annual deficits, while the world is de-dollarizing. Just in August, you saw the BRICS system that is moving away from the dollar add 6 new countries, including Gulf monarchies, including even some of the G20 economies in our own hemisphere.
People at home, that's BRIC is Brazil, Russia, India, China.
I think it's important to note that CNN thinks its viewers are so dumb, and they probably are, that they have to break down what BRICS is. If you're interested in politics on any level and you don't know what BRICS is, you got to do more research, which, of course, the average CNN crowd doesn't, which is why Jake Tapper had to point out what BRICS is.
Economies in our own hemisphere.
People at home, that's BRIC is Brazil, Russia, India, China. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they are moving away from the dollar. You're seeing the African Union move away from the dollar. U.S. News just last month said that de-dollarization was the economic trend of our day. And so some people try to make policy disagreements personal because their own policy failures are so personally embarrassing.
It is personally embarrassing. All these failures are personally embarrassing. You know, Lindsey Graham says, ousting McCarthy would be a disaster for the future of the Republican Party. I think not doing what needs to be done right now is actually a disaster for the future of the country. And Matt Gaetz lays it out perfectly. People are moving away from our dollar. It's not something where we're going to be like, you know, people are going to move away from the U.S. dollar and then want to jump back on the train in a couple of years. Like, once that ship sails, that ship is sailed. But nobody wants to talk about that. They just want more billions for Ukraine. Just like nobody wants to talk about our broken border. But again, the guys at CNN swear, this is personal between you and McCarthy. This is a personal vendetta, isn't it?
This isn't personal, Jake.
Yeah.
This is about spending. This is about the deal Kevin McCarthy made. If Kevin McCarthy didn't want to keep the deal to return to pre-COVID spending, if he didn't want to keep the deal to have single subject spending bills, not vote for government spending all up or down at once, then he shouldn't have made that deal. So this is about keeping Kevin McCarthy to his word. It's not about any personal animus.
It's not any personal animus, he says. I think it's a little personal. I do. But can you blame him? McCarthy says one thing, does another thing. Classic politicians, am I right? I mean, me personally, I wish they shut that whole thing down. I do. But instead, what do we got? We got until November 15th now. We're funding the government until November 15th. Oh, awesome. Awesome. November 15th, if you look at your calendar, right? That'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 business days before the Thanksgiving break. So this is going to be something that I can't imagine that they're going to start working on until, I don't know, the 14th. And they got what, 5, 6 business days until Thanksgiving. So we're gonna do this whole thing again. We're all gonna be Marty McFly. Hey, I've seen this one. I've seen this. So get ready. Just when you thought you couldn't talk about government shutdowns anymore, we got another 45 days of it. Exciting times, my friends. Exciting times. 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Former President Trump in court. Wait till you hear what he said before he went in. And from government showdown to House Speaker showdown. Another major strike is looming, too. These stories and more, 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Got a text from 0674. Says the government's a bigger tease than my wife. All week long, you hear about government shutdown. And then when it comes down to it, those jerks are still open. You're absolutely right.
Just trying to keep us on our toes.
You're absolutely right. So funny.
Well, you're absolutely right, too, dude. I mean, we're going to be talking about this right up until the day again.
I was doing my best to not talk about it. Like,
It's like, oh, here it is again.
Oh, my gosh.
The week before Thanksgiving.
Oh, my gosh. So I was at church. We did Saturday night church at World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro. And Pastor Alan Jackson, who's great. I love him. He has this one line. He's like, you got to forgive people that you don't like. I know a lot of people don't like the government. And all of a sudden, my wife and my sister leaned forward and looked down the row at me, just awkwardly. Okay. All right. I'll forgive them. But I'm still angry. But, Lindsey Graham said it would be destruction for the Republican Party. 5411 texted in. He said, this is your great-grandfather's Republican Party. Old and wrinkly. It is. You're absolutely right. These old guys need to move out of the way. I'm tired of it. I really am. People are telling me, easy killer. They weren't positive. 4176 said, bro, I can see the level of frustration on your face talking about this. I feel you. I am frustrated about it. It's garbage. It's absolutely hot, stinky garbage. It's like Trash Mountain in Murfreesboro. Just hot garbage.
It's got the vein bulging on your forehead.
Oh, my gosh. It is. I mean, we have a trash mountain of a government right now. I don't know how else you want to put it. But what do we do? Get rid of McCarthy. That's perfect. We work with Democrats to get rid of McCarthy. And then who's up next? Jim Jordan? I don't know, maybe. I don't even know who you replace him with. 4076 said Gates for speaker, but he's not gonna get those votes. He's made too many enemies. Where do we go? I don't know. And I worry that anybody that gets the seat is just going to do the same thing that everybody in the seat does. Spoiler alert, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, we had another Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, jumping in and throwing her hat in the ring, saying Matt Gaetz is just he's a crazy person. He can't be doing all this. Can you believe Matt Gaetz? This is where we're at in the government. It's unreal. It's disappointing. Now, 4702 said it's called Mount Trashmore, Chris. Sorry. Mount Trashmore in Murfreesboro. That's what our government's like. Like the hot garbage from Mount Trashmore. 9384 said Chip Roy for speaker. I'd be okay with it. I don't know. A little bit just. I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed. All right, Ken Weaver's got the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"9:30 on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you about the cool down toward the end of the week. Coming up during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Former President Donald Trump is at that Manhattan courthouse this morning for the start of his civil fraud trial brought against him by New York Attorney General Letitia James, whom the former president called a racist horror show as he strolled past reporters to go into the courtroom. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy facing a possible vote to oust him from his job by fellow Republicans, upset he worked with House Democrats to pass another stopgap government spending bill Just to go over it all again right before Thanksgiving, Rachel Scott.
This was a short-term deal to keep the government funded for about 45 days, which means we could revisit this fight once again right before Thanksgiving. As for that effort to try to force Speaker McCarthy out of his job, well, he still has the support of the majority of Republicans here on Capitol Hill, but it would only take a handful to turn against him and kick him out.
And another major strike looming, the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history, and it could happen this week. 75,000 Kaiser Permanente employees in 5 states threatening to walk off the job on Wednesday. We're talking about healthcare workers in California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Virginia, and D.C. A company, meanwhile, says it'll continue to negotiate in good faith. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have 2 people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
Gates won't do it. Everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster things, says 5411. Talking about Gates ousting McCarthy as Speaker of the House. It's 9:38 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What do you think? Is Gates going to ditch McCarthy? If that happens, who do you want as Speaker of the House? I see people floating Chip Roy. Somebody said President Trump should be Speaker of the House. I've heard those theories before. I don't think that's going to happen. However, it would be fun. I'm watching President Trump right now sit in a courtroom in New York City for his civil fraud trial. What a load of hot garbage that is. We're under the economic strain of migrants in New York City. We can't afford anything. We're under mountains of debt. Let's also use taxpayer money to charge Donald Trump for fraud and go after him every which way we can. Crazy times. Chip Roy, 100%, says 7636. Mark Green, says our friend Sharon. David and Dixon, you have a thought on McCarthy and the Speaker of the House saga. David, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, David?
Well, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I just wondered, is it possible to oust McCarthy completely out of Congress and take about 90% of the rest of them with him?
In a dream scenario, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes, but it would be great. We need to start all over, get a whole new crew. Couldn't do any worse.
No,
I'd like to see Jim Jordan.
I wouldn't mind Jim Jordan. I mean, he's done a lot of good things. I just worry that whoever gets in the chair does what the chair says. You know what I mean? I feel like it could be anybody, and they'll just fall in line to the.
Well, I'm not sure there's any of them up there I trust, but he seems to be maybe one of the better chances.
No, I agree with you. I like Jim Jordan. I do. I just worry. It's like it's part of the position that's the problem. You know, I don't. Yeah. It doesn't really matter who gets in there. There's people behind the curtain that really make the decisions, unfortunately. But thanks for the call, David. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Larry in Clarksville, you got a comment on Ukraine. My man Larry, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Hey, Chris. Good morning, brother. Listen, I mean, I like Jim Jordan. I would love to see Mark Green get that position because I think he is truly a good man. And I am so tired of Lindsey Grahamnesty wanting to support Ukraine. I want to know where all these billions of dollars in cash are coming back to Biden or McConnell or whoever. I want some accountability, brother.
You and me both. I mean, Lindsey Graham has never found a war overseas he didn't want to send our boys to. So I don't know. He's just garbage.
Yes, sir. And thanks for making my call. Love your show. I listen every day as long as I ain't in the hospital and I can't get reception. So
yeah, you doing better, Larry? You feeling better?
I am, brother. 2 heart attacks, 3 stents,
jeez,
and a AAA surgery, brother. I'm hanging in there.
Man, you're a monster. Keep going, Larry. We're praying for you.
All right. I love you, man.
Love you too. Appreciate it. All right. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We got this. The government's not shut down. It seems like it was very anticlimactic over the weekend. Just meh. I mean, the most exciting thing that happened was Jamal Bowman apparently just pulling a fire alarm to stop the vote. Did you see this? Oh my gosh. Rep Jamal Bowman, Democrat, out of New York. Go figure, right? Ripped down 2 warning signs, according to Breitbart, for a second-floor door in the Cannon House office building. It's an emergency door. And then he pulled the fire alarm and ran out a different door on a different floor. And this was to delay the vote. Crazy. Hey, you know what's even crazier than Jamal Bowman going out and pulling fire alarms to delay the votes, which it seems like it's stopping an official proceeding, right? Didn't Jan Sixers go to jail for that? Didn't MAGA grannies who got walked into the Capitol and the doors open for them, didn't they go Didn't they go to jail for stopping an official proceeding? The only thing more crazy than Jamal Bowman removing the warning signs, which are bright red and say emergency exit only, and then pulling a fire alarm, which he said he thought was to open the door, which is also bright red and says fire. And I will point out, Jamal Bowman, it was a principal at a school where they have fire alarms and fire drills. So like he should know what they look like. I mean, it says fire, pull down in case of fire. So he pulls that down to delay the official vote. But then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes on CNN and she defends Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm because, guys, we haven't even had a conversation about this yet. And it's a very, very confusing thing. Doors are confusing. Fire alarms are confusing. You put those two things together, a fire alarm near a door, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to be confused.
He says it was an accident. He thought pulling the alarm would open a door based on the fact that the doors to his right there were locked, and there was a sign that he said he was, I think someone said it was confusing.
Very confusing.
I'll be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me, his explanation. Have you talked to him? What's going on there?
I mean, listen, I think if you actually do see some of the photos of the signs, I think there's something to be said about the government's about to shut down. There's a vote clock that's going down. The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
Listen, as AOC points out, doors are confusing, fire alarms are confusing. There's something to be said about that. Let's not discount this right away. He was clearly confused.
The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
So you pulled the fire alarm?
So what I am here to say is that House administration and U.S. Capitol Police and Jamal Bowman are an active, and he's fully participating in saying there was a misunderstanding. But what I do think is important to raise
What's that?
Is the fact that Republicans...
Oh, here it comes. You ready? Jamal Bowman pulls a fire alarm. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez goes on CNN, and then she says, they're in active conversation about the misunderstanding, Capitol Police and Jamal Bowman. But the most important thing, and this is what she points out, those darn MAGA Republicans,
is the fact that Republicans, representatives like Nicole Malliotakis and others, immediately moved to file motions to censure, motions to expel, before there has even been conversations that are finished to even see if there was a misunderstanding here.
The man pulled a fire alarm. He's a grown adult man. You've seen fire alarms your entire life, sir. Yes, censure him, expel him. He pulled a fire alarm in the house, which triggered a full-scale law enforcement and emergency services response and an evacuation of the building. Delaying the vote, stopping an official proceeding. Garbage. And AOC goes on CNN. I mean, Jake Tapper at least pushed back on her. He's like, this doesn't seem legit. But AOC, fire alarms are confusing. They're very confusing. 2626 texted in. He said, seriously, it's an obstruction and a waste of more tax-paying money as firefighters have to respond. Also, I could grab any first grader and they know what a fire alarm looks like. Yep. 3581 said, if he's that dumb that he doesn't know the difference between a fire alarm and an emergency, a door exit thing, he should be censured anyway for being stupid. 85, you guys are ruthless. 8521 says, I feel like he would struggle being a Walmart greeter if he can't understand a fire alarm. Yep. This is who we got. This is who's running the country. You ever wonder why we're $33 trillion in debt? It's because the people that are in government would struggle being Walmart greeters. And I don't want to insult Walmart greeters. Some of the nicest people I know. And you know what? I feel like Jamal Bowman couldn't do their job. He couldn't hold their lunch. 3928 says, I feel like the left has lied so much and have gotten away with it that now things are so obvious they don't know how to be accountable when called out for lying. if they make up the stupidest lies and think people are actually going to believe it. Yes. They do believe that people are going to believe it because they think that you're dumb. That's really the common thread with Democrats. They think you're dumb, and they know that their voters are dumb. It's unreal. This is what we got. This is why the government is in debt. This is why we can't get anything done other than sending money to Ukraine. 8099 says falsely pulling a fire alarm should be a crime on federal property. It should be a federal crime. Yep. 9058 said if AOC did it, it would be more believable. Yep. Fair enough. 4576 said, to be honest, most of our elected officials are too old to be Walmart greeters. Yep. Speaking of elected officials who are just too old to do their job, Dianne Feinstein passed away. Everybody was saying, who's gonna replace her? Oh, and the rumors were flying all weekend. Is it going to be Meghan Markle? Oh, wouldn't that have been a joy? Is it going to be Oprah? Oh, it could have been Oprah. It could have been Meghan Markle. For the sheer entertainment value, I wish that one of those had come true. But unfortunately, the person that will be replacing Dianne Feinstein, it's just, of course, it's a black lesbian because we gotta fill the diversity quotas, right? Which is just like, I feel bad too, because you know what? If they didn't go out ahead of it and say, we got to replace her with a black woman, maybe a black woman would have been the best person for the job, right? Maybe. But no. Gavin Newsom has replaced, this is crazy. Gavin Newsom has replaced the seat of Dianne Feinstein with a black female who also just so happens to be a lesbian. Her name is LaFonza. I don't want to make fun of her name. I don't want to do the whole Fonzie things, but that's who replaced her. A woman by the name of LaFonza Butler. And you know what? She works for a pro-abortion advocacy group, Emily's List. And her FEC filing 31 days ago listed Maryland as her state of residence. So very diverse for California, so diverse that she's not even from California. She's the first black lesbian to serve in the U.S. Senate. So we did it, Joe. We did it. Looking forward to all the radical policies that will come out of that seat. Crazy. Or is it crazy? It's not. It's not really that crazy. It's just kind of expected at this point. 9:51. You hear the music playing, so that means we got to hit the break. 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
apology.
Former President Trump offers some searing comments ahead of his civil fraud trial in New York City. You'll get to hear it coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, I'm excited. It's 9:58 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Anytime President Trump gets extra spicy, you know I'm here for it. It's some of my favorite things.
And if it's extra from the former president, you know it's extra.
Is it going to be extra, or is that fake news?
Well, you know what? I mean, it's really not out of line with what he's done before, but there's a tone that you got to hear.
I like it. I mean,
it's a tone.
You can see his face.
Oh, yes.
When he's sitting in court on CNN right now. I haven't heard any of the audio, but I can see his face. His face is displaying a tone.
And for some reason, our network isn't giving me the quote that I want, but I'll keep digging for it.
Weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that would be. Could be anything, right? Also, to everybody sending me the Napoleon Dynamite LaFonda memes on the super text line in response to LaFonza. What's her name? LaFonza Bowman.
Yeah.
LaFonza Butler. Sorry. LaFonza Butler. Bowman was the fire alarm guy. There's so many bad Democrats right now. It's hard to keep up. LaFonza Butler. Everybody's sending me the Napoleon Dynamite LaFonda meme, so I say thank you for that. If you haven't seen it, you should Google it yourself. And then somebody said, I got a text. 3493 said, well, there was no one qualified in California, so they had to search in Maryland for a qualified lesbian of the appropriate color. Yep, it seems that way. It certainly does. Then I got another text, 2898 said, seeing things coming out of any senator's seat is disturbing. Although it might be a new and lucrative revenue stream for C-SPAN, I wonder if there's already an OnlyFans account for that. But yeah, the new senator in California being appointed by Gavin Newsom. She's a proud member of the community, you guys. You know the community that I'm talking about, right?
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2 plus kids' rights.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you about the cool down coming this week. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Former President Trump is in court in Manhattan for the opening day of the civil trial brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Very simply put, it's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. We have a corrupt Attorney General in this state.
He called her a racist horror. Trump, his sons, and a number of Trump Organization executives face claims of engaging in a decades-long scheme in which persistent acts of fraud and misrepresentation were used to inflate Trump's net worth. Well, in Washington, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy facing a possible vote to oust him from his job by fellow Republicans. Upset he worked with House Democrats to pass a stopgap government spending bill. This was a short-term deal to keep the government funded for about 45 days, which means we could revisit all this again right before Thanksgiving. As for that effort to try to force McCarthy out of the Speaker's seat, well, he still has the support of the majority of Republicans on Capitol Hill, but it would only take a handful to turn against him and kick him out. And the healthcare industry is bracing for a massive walkout by workers. Here's Rhiannon Alley.
75,000 Kaiser Permanente employees in 5 states threatening to walk off the job this Wednesday. Healthcare workers in California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. A coalition of unions representing them said it remains far apart with the company on key issues. The workers are seeking pay raises, better pensions, and protections against outsourcing.
And no grand prize winner in Saturday night's Powerball lottery, so up the jackpot goes with the top prize in tonight's drawing, $1.04 billion. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Lots of stuff coming out of the Trump courtroom. One of the things that I find the most interesting is apparently the judge in the case is sitting there with an ass-eating grin on his face and just laughing, really just enjoying himself while Trump is on trial. And they're talking about it on Newsmax, and they're wondering, why is the judge laughing?
All about. I think he purposely and very appropriately made his voice heard. And as we look at this image of the judge, I've never seen anything more inappropriate in my life of this judge being, smiling like the cat that got the canary here, because his political wish has come true. So far for this case. But this is a legally baseless order that he has already entered. We know what he's going to do after the fact. It's going to be more legally baseless arguments and decisions from this judge that I am confident that at the end of the day will be reversed.
I mean, nothing's going to happen. This is just a show trial, right? And they won't be Trump. It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. Alina Habba, Trump's attorney, went on before all of this. It was actually about an hour ago on the steps of the courthouse in Manhattan, and said basically that this is just ridiculous.
At the end of the day, we have a judge that has told us that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. He has failed to acknowledge what the appellate division has said, and we will continue to fight in hopes that there is some level of law and order in this country at this point. Although my faith in the system is wary, I do have faith in Donald Trump.
So, will anything come of this? Maybe not. CNN is on TV right now doing their victory lap. They're so happy that they have video of him in court, and they just think that this is a huge win. Oh, just a huge win for them. So, let them take their wins. Let them take their wins. I mean, it's just hot garbage. Do we do another Murfreesboro Trash Mountain reference? Do we go for number 2?
I mean, it's hard to miss at this point.
It's just a Mount Trashmore of a court case. So, just hot and stinky. Just that's all it is. What is going on in this country? We used to be a serious country, but we no longer are. It's just, and then meanwhile, we have. I mean, where do we go first in this current administration? Joe Biden sat down with ProPublica over the weekend for what seemed to be a softball interview with a left-leaning journo, and this is what they were talking about. The fundamentals of the democracy that's at stake.
That's why I think that I want to increase the focus on the fundamentals here. That democracy, literally our democracy, is at stake, and it's by altering the institutional structures to protect it. And I think that we're in real trouble.
Yeah, I think we're in real trouble too, sir. In fact, you sat down for a softball interview, and you're out of breath. You're reading notes, and you don't really have anything to say. He literally has nothing to say. He's asked about the Supreme Court and whether or not he has confidence in the Supreme Court, and here's what he says right before he pauses to read his notes again.
Do you personally have confidence that this current Supreme Court is upholding and will uphold the rule of law?
I worry because I know that if the other team, the MAGA Republicans, win, they don't want to uphold the rule of law. They want to get rid of the FBI. I mean, the things they say.
Don't tempt me with a good time. Get rid of the FBI.
And I think that somehow we got to communicate to the American people, this is for real.
Mm-hmm. It is.
This is real if they were to take over, if they were to have their way.
I mean, but we look at what Joe Biden's done since he's taken over and since he has his way. I mean, Donald Trump is sitting in a courtroom right now for garbage charges. The 91 indictments. Oh, 91. The weaponization of the DOJ under Joe Biden. Yes, he should be worried. He should be worried that pendulums swing and this could all come back on him. He should be worried that we have a conservative Supreme Court. And I hope he is worried. I wish that I wish he would reel in his DOJ, but that's probably not going to happen because these MAGA Republicans, they're so extreme.
The thing that I have trouble trying to figure out is what it is that, other than protecting the Constitution, what is it that these MAGA Republicans think is extreme about what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. They haven't been, I haven't seen any articulation of any of that.
What do you think is extreme about what Joe Biden's been doing? I'll let the super texters weigh in. 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. I don't know. Is it extreme that he's trying to get rid of gas engines? Is it extreme that he's ending the leases for drilling in our country? Is it extreme that he's just bending the knee to China? I mean, what else do we need? Is it extreme, the rate of inflation that's happening under Joe Biden? Is it extreme that families can't pay for groceries? Is it extreme that families have to buy groceries on credit? This is real. This is like the real ground issues. Joe Biden always talks about dinner table issues, but he doesn't actually talk about the cost of what's going on your dinner table. This extreme inflation, the extreme blank check policy for Ukraine. What else is extreme? Isn't this the same administration that wants to get rid of your gas stove? It's not extreme. It's not extreme. That's green. It's a green energy thing. It's ridiculous. 1509 says it's extreme that he had a strip show with drags shedding their clothes on the White House lawn. Yeah. I forgot about that one. This is how crazy the government is right now. He literally had a transgender on the White House lawn showing his fake breasts and bragging about it on social media. And I forgot about it. I literally forgot about it. Thank you, Super Texter 1509. And what else do you think is extreme? 615-737-9986. I literally forgot about that. How bad is our country right now that I forgot that he had a transgender on the White House lawn showing their bare breasts, his bare breasts?
I just feel like they're throwing distractions every which way they can. First it was aliens. Now they're throwing random protesters at us. I put air quotes around that for sure.
I mean, I got another 2211, extreme dementia. I mean, it's so bad that you forget all of the things that have happened. Like, when's the last time we brought up Afghanistan and the extreme failure that was his pullout with no plan? I mean, the Bidens have a long history of not pulling out the right way, but this is where we're at. But he goes on in ProPublica. That wasn't the only thing. He said, "Oh, these mega Republicans." But he says, if you look at what I've done, the American people they like it. They like what I'm doing.
Well, look, if you take a look at all what I propose, they're overwhelmingly popular with the American people. Nothing I've proposed is extreme.
I don't know what he is talking about. They must have gave him some good uppers for that interview. Because he says he's overwhelmingly popular. 73% of Americans currently say that the nation is on the wrong track under Biden. 73%. And so I'd say the 73% say, we're on the wrong track. I get it. But I often wonder, like, all right, what about everybody else? Where is everybody else? Yeah, good point. Well, I don't know. It may probably unrelated, but Hopkins Medicine, old John Hopkins, says an estimated 26% of Americans age 18 and older suffer from a diagnosable mental disorder. So I don't know. Could be unrelated. Probably unrelated. Overwhelmingly, the American people like what I'm doing. Then he goes down another fun lane, which is just classic Joe. He starts attacking Elon Musk in Twitter in this interview.
About what Elon Musk has done to Twitter, lowering guardrails against misinformation. Does that contribute to it?
Yeah, it does.
Lowering guardrails for misinformation. Could it be raising guardrails for free speech? I mean, I'm old enough to remember you were banned on Twitter for saying that the virus came from the Wuhan lab. I'm old enough to remember you were banned on Twitter for saying that the vaccine wouldn't stop you from getting COVID and wouldn't stop you from spreading COVID. I remember all those things. I think Elon is actually increasing free speech on Twitter. But they say he's lowering the guardrails for misinformation.
Lowering guardrails against misinformation. Does that contribute to it?
Yeah, it does. Look, one of the things, as I said to you, when I thought I wasn't going to run, I was going to write a book about the changes taking place. And most of it's directed over the years with these fundamental changes in society by changing technology. Mm-hmm. Gutenberg printing and the printing press changed the way Europeans could talk to one another, all the way to today. Where do people get their news? They go on the internet. They go online. They go, and you have no notion whether it's true or not.
Yeah, Gutenberg and the printing press, and you get your stuff online. Okay. I mean, it was the left wing establishment that shut down the laptop investigation. That banned the New York Post and shut them down for even spreading the laptop story. I mean, we know that Biden's weaponization of the DOJ has gone after free speech on the internet. We know that these left-wing ideologues were in the weeds shutting down speech, and that the Biden administration was in the background pulling the strings for anybody that suffered from wrongthink. And this guy says, it's like Gutenberg and the printing press.
By changing technology. Mm-hmm. Gutenberg printing and the printing press changed the way Europeans could talk to one another, all the way to today. Where do people get their news?
Not from the mainstream media any longer. Not from Joe Biden's regime. All we get from those guys are talking points and narrative. He also says he was going to write a book. Like, no, you weren't, Joe. No, you weren't. 8410 says that Biden interview, the idiot is setting the conditions for controlled federal media, controlled of the American First Amendment. Do we not already have a controlled federal media? I mean, seriously, it seems like more than 90% of the media is absolutely in the pocket of the Democratic establishment. Unreal. 4624. He wasn't going to write a book. I doubt if he's ever read one. Yep. 9058. OMG, like the newspaper can't lie as well. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Oh, read the New York Times. That's far more accurate. Please. Yep. It's garbage. But he gets a softball interview with a left wing leaning ProPublica, and this left wing establishment ProPublica, they've actually gotten money from. Oh, you want to know? Do you want to know who they've taken donations from? George Soros. Oh, weird. Must be another coincidence. Don't look behind the curtain. Please don't look behind the curtain. It's coincidences. Yep. Donor-funded news organization ProPublica, marketed as an independent nonprofit newsroom. It's been referred to by conservatives as serving a liberal bias. This is from the Post-Millennial. The organization started in 2007 by Paul Steiger, a former Wall Street Journal editor. However, reportedly, is supported now by a slew of liberal donors such as George Soros and others. Weird. ProPublica was apparently provided $35 million in 2021, while the organization seems to go above and beyond what the IRS requires about their donors. The Post suggested that there's a level of vagueness about the organization. Between 2020 and 2021, the organization brought in $6.3 million worth of donations, but the identity of the donors were kept anonymous. Very convenient. But we do know old George Soros is in there cutting checks. And that's strange. Joe Biden, Joe Biden was busy. He was. He actually gave a speech. We'll have more from the ProPublica interview. And then we'll have his speech from yesterday where he pulled a Mitch McConnell and appeared to seize up. I feel at times I'm angry with Joe Biden. At times I feel like we're watching elder abuse in real time. And I feel bad for him. Like I waffle. I feel bad. I feel angry. I feel bad. I feel angry. Right now, and I kind of feel bad for being angry. 1021 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. I mean, the weather is waffling. It's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. You're kicking on your heater in the morning to get the chill out of the air, and then you're kicking on your AC in the afternoon. Well, if you are finding either of those, your heater or your AC on the fritz right now, you got to call my man Jeff Eddy at Efficient Heating and Cooling. I mean, it can be so hard to find somebody that you trust when it comes to these large home repairs, and that includes heating and cooling. And Efficient, they're the guys to call because they're a small company with big service and even bigger results. I trust Jeff Eddy. He's a good guy, a Christian, a family man. And when I met with him, I could just tell, just based on the vibe, that he does the right thing all the time. So if you're trying to make that decision to replace your system, if you've had another guy tell you that you need to replace it, call Jeff and his crew for a second opinion because they'll walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make an informed decision. Because spoiler alert, most of the other companies, they'll just pressure you to replace your system because they make more money that way. Not with Efficient, but with Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an elite pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424.
Former President Trump defiant ahead of his civil trial on alleged real estate fraud. He was in the courtroom today. This story and more coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. During your last newscast when you were talking about Trump in court, I displayed incredible self-control by not cracking the mic and yelling "based" a couple times. Just wanted to let you know.
All right, brother.
Very much self-control. Joe Biden sitting down with far-left establishment, George Soros-funded ProPublica over the weekend. It was a softball interview. It seemed like he was out of breath the entire time. You know, he claimed that Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter makes disinformation and misinformation so much more readily available, and that Americans have no notion whether the news is true or not. And I feel like that problem's been around since before Elon took over Twitter. You know, we're just not getting banned anymore for asking questions. But he goes on, and this far left host, his name is John Harwood. He asks him, you know, he has this premise that blue-collar Americans are afraid of change. That's what this sounds like. Oh, you want to give me some audio?
Focused on delivering economic benefits to some of those voters who are afraid of change. What is the evidence that in this current moment, it's economic benefits that will diminish their grievances?
Now, before Joe Biden answers, I want to point out that during the video, this host, John Harwood, has this smile on him, and he's nodding and agreeing with the president the whole time. And he loves the answer about how we're afraid of change and we're not focused on the economic benefits. Here's Joe's answer.
It's not so much the economic benefits, it's treating them with respect. Treating them with respect. You may remember, because you're barely old enough, but you may remember back in 72, we ran a campaign that Nixon won overwhelmingly in 72. He won over 60% of the vote in my state, and I won by 3,100 votes. The issue then was that we were limousine liberals. We weren't paying attention to the problems of ordinary families and speaking to their immediate needs. Well, I've never not done that.
Oh, strange, right? So he says, you're people are afraid of change and they don't understand the economic benefits. And he smiles the whole time while Joe Biden brings up something that happened 50 years ago. And then says people thought we were limousine liberals then. And sir, we still think you're limousine liberals now. He says that, back then, people thought we didn't care about, regular folk things, right?
The issue then was that we were limousine liberals. We weren't paying attention to the problems of ordinary families and speaking to their immediate needs.
Oh, but they do that now so well, don't they? When they're sending billions to Ukraine, they're really focused on your family and your immediate needs. When the average family is paying $15,000 per kid for daycare a year, they are very much focused on your needs. I mean, it is such garbage. I remember that me and my wife were working with our first daughter, and it felt like one of our salaries going exclusively to childcare. Exclusively to childcare. And this guy is such hot trash that he gets in a friendly room with a friendly interviewer. And he says, oh, back then, they didn't think we were focused on what Americans wanted us to focus on. But now they know we're focused on that. By the way, I'm sending another $1 billion to Ukraine. Did I mention that? Absolute garbage. All right. I went from feeling bad to feeling angry. I'm feeling angry again. 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news for you right now.
$10:30 on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. The cool down is coming. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Former President Trump's civil fraud trial underway in Manhattan, and here he is right before entering the courtroom.
This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time.
Trump, his sons, and a number of Trump Organization executives facing claims from Attorney General Letitia James of engaging in a decades-long scheme in which persistent acts of fraud and misrepresentation were allegedly used to inflate his net worth. All ears and eyes on the House floor this week as Representative Matt Gaetz continues his threats to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy following work with Democrats over the weekend to avoid a government shutdown. And for the first time since the pandemic, federal student loan payments due again, affecting 28 million borrowers. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You may remember, because you're barely old enough, but you may remember back in 72, we ran a campaign that Nixon won overwhelmingly in 72. He won over 60% of the vote in my state, and I won by 3,100 votes. The issue then was that we were limousine liberals. We weren't paying attention to the problems of ordinary families and speaking to their immediate needs. Well, I've never not done that.
Yeah, that's what he says. We don't believe him, though. Got a super text here. It says, the fact that he can reference himself all the way back to 1972 being in Congress is the problem. You're absolutely right. 6788. It is 1036 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, Joe Biden says he's focused on, dinner table issues, right? Yeah, he's got to focus on things that are really that families are worried about. Like sending money to Ukraine, which he just loves doing. But unfortunately, just being reported by the Post Millennial, a confidential memo from the State Department reveals that even the Biden administration has concerns that the level of corruption in Ukraine could result in Western allies distrusting the Zelensky administration and deciding to no longer back it. Weird, right? While consistently demanding that Congress send more taxpayer dollars to fund Ukraine's war effort, it turns out that the Biden administration has intensive concerns about the level of corruption under President Volodymyr Zelensky's leadership. A confidential memo from the State Department reveals that the Biden administration has concerns that the level of corruption in Ukraine could result in Western allies distrusting Zelensky and his administration and deciding to no longer back it or the war. It also reveals that as the White House is pushing to remedy the corruption, they don't want to be too public about it, lest that result in less support both at home and among European allies for the war effort. Many Republicans in the House of Representatives go on to say they oppose funding the war. But apparently, this confidential U.S. strategy document obtained by Politico is warning that perceptions of high-level corruption may undermine Ukraine's public and foreign leaders' confidence in the wartime government. If you're just now joining us and just now realizing that the Ukraine government is corrupt, I feel like you haven't been paying attention. I feel like this has been the concern the entire time. In fact, this has been concern for at least, 10 years, 10 plus years now? Ukraine is one of the most corrupt governments in the world. But we have to keep sending the money, right? This document reportedly shows that the White House is attempting to help Kyiv reform and alleviate the graft that runs rampant in the Ukrainian government. This is a confidential version of a document posted by the State Department on August 29th. The document mentions corruption multiple times, saying that though the biggest challenge is winning the war, Ukraine has a unique opportunity in the current moment to commit to the anti-corruption and judicial reforms needed to realize the aspirations of the Ukrainian people. And it mentions as a mission goal for the future of Ukraine to win the peace, Ukraine needs to strengthen its civil society and democratic and economic institution and implement anti-corruption reforms to achieve sustainable momentum towards Euro-Atlantic integration to win a secure and just future that delivers prosperity for all of its citizens. The idea that if Ukraine can decrease the amount of corruption in government, they will have a better integration with Europe. Weird. Everyone knows that Ukraine is corrupt. Everyone has known for a long time Ukraine is corrupt. But Joe Biden, he wants you to know that he is not a limousine liberal. He's focused on dinner table issues. It's really frustrating. It's like, I say this all the time. It feels like we cover news that isn't really new news because we've known it for so long, but then it's like new revelations. This is just another one of those things. Oh, even the Biden administration knows they're corrupt. Yep. All right, cool. Yep. But he doesn't talk about that in this ProPublica interview. He doesn't bring up things that Americans actually care about. No. Instead, Biden will tell ProPublica that liberals are unable to have conversations with people that they disagree with. Literally. Like he doesn't really talk about Ukraine in this at all. He doesn't talk about their corruption. Doesn't talk about the corruption that his administration acknowledges. He says, We got to force people to get in a two-way conversation.
But I also think that we should be engaging people more and not be worried about our neighbor. Talk to them. Sit down and say, what do you think? Well, and not get in arguments, but say, this is what you say this, but how about this? And force people to get in a two-way conversation.
It's crazy to me because in this same interview, Joe Biden rails against Elon Musk in Twitter, saying that they're spreading misinformation and disinformation. And then just a couple questions later, he says, but, people can't have conversations anymore. Well, the place for conversations is online. Your administration shuts down that conversation. So the fact that we can't have a conversation about this stuff, it's kind of falling at your feet, sir. It's kind of your problem. Your administration censors people. Your administration pushes out fake news. Your administration won't level with the people when you actually know that Ukraine is corrupt. You just let people assume that they're a good country and you're a monster if you don't want to help Ukraine against the Russians. I'm over it. But he also goes out of this ProPublica interview to say it's important to give people hope. That's what his angry democracy speeches are all about.
And when you talk to people, like, for example, the speech I recently made on democracy, I made about 4 major speeches on democracy. Mm-hmm. Initially, with notable exceptions, people thought, what's Biden talking about here? Well, the data showed that over 60% of the American people, they were worried too. And that's one of the reasons why 2020 turned out the way it did, 2022 turned out the way it did. And so I think it's important to give people some hope.
Yeah, I feel hopeful. You feel hopeful? I feel I'm filled with hope. Filled with hope and joy, personally. It's important to give people some hope. And I'll point out the reason 2020 turned out the way it did, and perhaps even 22, is because your administration and your left-wing media complex was censoring information online, the same information you say we should be able to have a conversation about. Hot garbage. Hey, here's the thing that we're probably not going to be able to have a conversation about. Hunter Biden is suspected of hiring prostitutes from a sex trafficking ring. Investigators have found payments from Hunter and his companies suspected to a suspected Eastern European prostitution ring from the Daily Mail. Is this something that we're going to be able to have a conversation about, Mr. President? Your garbage son. Investigators found payments from Hunter and his companies to a suspected Eastern European prostitution ring. Those associated with the ring included women with Russian passports and a China-based company to which money was funneled. DailyMail.com previously reported documents, texts, and videos showing Hunter spent a staggering $30,000 on escorts in just 5 months. But now bank investigators are suspected Hunter Biden was associated with a sex trafficking ring and falsified checks to pay prostitutes. Treasury documents reveal. This is all coming from suspicious activity reports reviewed by DailyMail.com, and they show the First Son's accounts were being monitored as late as December 2019 after investigators found payments from Hunter and his companies to a suspected Eastern European prostitution ring. A previously unreported document filed to the Department of the Treasury on December 17, 2019 by financial crime investigators at Wells Fargo picked out 25 individuals linked to the suspected ring and almost $7 million of suspicious transactions, some of which included checks from Hunter that they believe may have been falsified to hide his payments to hookers from his business accounts. Are we going to be able to have a conversation about that, Mr. President? I don't know. Can I talk to my neighbor about that? Will I be banned offline for sharing that? I mean, probably not anymore because luckily Elon Musk owns Twitter now, which, Joe Biden says is it's a threat. It's a threat to democracy. He's spreading misinformation and disinformation. It's crazy. John texted in and said, Chris, if you listen to that last clip, Joe saying being a limousine liberal has never not been who he is. So it's a double negative. says he is one. Thanks. Yep. 5284 says, Biden says all Republicans are extremists, yet the Democrat Party of the KKK seems to have historical facts proving they are and or have been the extremist party. Weird how that happens, isn't it? They just forget the history. They don't want to talk about the history. They don't. They don't want to talk about that. You know, and you can point out that this stuff is happening, especially like it's crazy to me. So like Hunter being involved in Eastern European sex trafficking rings, like he should be brought up on charges today. Why
veteran homeowners
do we not see people held accountable for this stuff? And we don't. We literally do not see people held accountable for the most heinous crimes. A MAGA granny that gets walked into the Capitol on J6 with a Capitol police officer holding the door open for her, she'll get charged and sentenced to a crime. But then you see stories like Hunter, where it gets swept under the rug, or even this one. This from a couple days ago. Ex-ABC News journalist James Gordon Meek sentenced to 6 years in prison for sadistic child porn. An ex-ABC News journalist. Former ABC News producer James Gordon Meek was sentenced to 72 months in prison for transportation and possession of child sexual abuse material, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced on Friday. Meek, who had worked for ABC News for nearly 10 years until an investigation into his possession of child porn allegations began last year, was convicted on federal charges of transporting and possessing child sex abuse materials in July. How is this only 6 years? How does he only get 6 years for this? Why is it the most evil, heinous crimes get the lightest soft sentences? Why is it that our Justice Department and the people that are supposed to hold criminals accountable are going to do less and punish this man less than the other prisoners in the jail? The prisoners in the jail will actually hold this man more accountable than the judge and federal prosecutors. Federal prosecutors had argued that he should have received between 12 and a half and 15 years. I would argue life. You want to make a difference and you want people to stop doing this kind of stuff, you need to make an example. Make an example. 6 years for quote-unquote sadistic child porn. First, I'll say, my friends, there's no such thing as non-sadistic child porn. It's all sadistic child porn. But the fact that they have to use sadistic in the headline, sadistic child porn, death penalty. Publicly. Andrew Tate had a video going viral over the weekend. I'm not sure if you saw it. I can't really play it on the air because he was very vulgar and it would be a lot of bleeps. But Andrew Tate, there was a 15-year-old girl in London who was stabbed and died on her way to school. And he says, why is this happening? And Andrew Tate goes on a tirade saying, I would change it. I would change it in 2 weeks if I was in charge of England. Public hangings from the bridge for people that commit these crimes against children. Aired on TV, walk them up the bridge and they're crying. And that would send a message, don't do this. But there is no message to not do this kind of stuff when the guy gets a slap on the wrist of 6 years. An ABC News journalist, a guy that is working in the media that lies to us, he gets sentenced to 6 years for sadistic child porn. 6 years. You can judge a society by how well they take care of their most vulnerable. And I'm sorry, y'all, we're failing. We are absolutely failing as a society when an ex-ABC News journalist, James Gordon Meek, is sentenced to only 6 years in prison for sadistic child porn. And this is rampant. This isn't just a one-off random creeper. No. Even Instagram had an algorithm boosting vast pedophile networks, an alarming report claimed. This is from June, earlier this summer. Instagram's recommendation algorithms linked and even promoted a vast pedophile network that advertised the sale of illicit child sex material on the platform, according to the findings of an alarming report Wednesday. You know what I find alarming? That Joe Biden will tell us that Elon Musk is spreading mis and disinformation, while Joe Biden's regime will get us banned and kicked off for saying a virus came from Wuhan, for saying a vaccine doesn't work, but they can't stop the spread of child porn on these websites? They can't? Are you kidding? And we punish these people who take part in this with 6 years in prison? Nah, miss me with that. We need to bring back real penalties for these people. Real penalties, publicly. Seriously, like that's the only way to fix this. The way we're doing it is all wrong. We used to be an absolute proper country, and this isn't good. It doesn't look good for us. It's embarrassing, and as a father, it absolutely pisses me off. 6 years, 6 years, garbage, absolute garbage. All right, now I'm really mad. 10:51. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
Trump trial. Will Democrats bail out McCarthy? Supreme Court fall term preview. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. I see a lot of people on the Super Text line chiming in about the last topic. The ABC News journalist who was sentenced to 6 years for sadistic child porn. It's absolutely garbage. A lot of people bring up the Epstein flight logs. A lot of people saying, this is what these elitists do, and it's crazy. This stuff just gets swept under the rug. The Guardian had a story on Thursday. The Guardian is a big newspaper in England. A 23-year-old was arrested for gun possession. It led the FBI to a global satanic cult. An arrest on gun possession charges in Queens, New York in November of 21. So why are we just finding out about it now? I don't know. Has led the FBI to a pedophilic, satanist, extortionist cult that has victimized dozens, if not hundreds, of minors, according to law enforcement documents, court records, and sources with knowledge of the investigation. This should be the main story on every news network. This deserves a ticker. When there's missing kids all over the country, when nobody gets real punishment for child porn, when Instagram buries the fact that they are promoting vast pedophile networks on their algorithm, where's the mainstream media? They say nothing. And this is why people lose trust in the media, because the stories that a lot of people run are hot garbage. They don't care about the actual stuff happening in the world. No. They care about what they want you to care about, and pay attention to the narrative, right? Oh yeah, Trump's in court. Did you hear? He's got fraud and civil charges. Don't worry about the 23-year-old that was arrested for gun possession that led the FBI to a global satanic cult. No. That's Pizzagate level QAnon stuff. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. The cool down is coming. We'll tell you when this week during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Former President Donald Trump in the courtroom for opening statements today in the civil real estate fraud trial brought against him by New York Attorney General Letitia James, whom the former president said before he went into the courtroom was a, quote, racist horror show, claiming James is using the case to bolster her own career.
Very simply put, it's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. We have a corrupt attorney general in this state.
Former president already calling the judge, Arthur Engoron, deranged and called for his resignation. All ears and eyes on the House floor this week as Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz continues his threats to oust Speaker Kevin McCarthy following working with Democrats over the weekend to avoid a government shutdown. Here's Jay O'Brien.
If it's more than 5 House Republicans, McCarthy has to start offsetting those with Democratic votes to keep him. And so we've spoken with House Democrats who said they haven't yet heard from Speaker McCarthy's office, but they also haven't heard from their own Democratic leadership as to what leadership wants to do about this. So you're going to see a lot of different political machinations as to if Democrats bail out McCarthy.
Today marks the first sitting of the Supreme Court in its new term. Here's Stephen Portnoy with a preview of cases to come.
This term, the High Court will weigh the constitutionality of a federal ban on bump stocks and a decades-old gun ban for those under domestic violence restraining orders. Justices will also hear arguments over the FDA's approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. GOP-led state laws on social media censorship are being challenged, as well as bathroom policies for transgender students. Oral arguments are being heard tomorrow on the structure and authority of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a case that could end in a rollback of federal agency power.
And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. Now, I'm a husband. I got 4 wonderful children, and me and my wife, we didn't have a financial plan for the future. And you got to have a financial plan, but we didn't have one. Luckily, we linked up with Paul and his crew at Paul Winkler Inc. Now, I've been a fan of Paul's radio show since I moved to Nashville like 8 years ago. And after meeting with him and realizing he's the same guy that I heard on the air, I was all in. Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required, and because of that, the government regulators require that I tell you I'm paid every time this commercial airs, and that's fine, that's honest, but it's because I got to sit down with Paul, honestly, break bread, and have my questions answered that I decided to become a client myself. I'm impressed. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do, and with Paul and his team, nothing is done on commission. That's huge for me. Nothing is done on commission. That's big because I know when they tell me a decision to make for my family, they're not telling me a decision to make for their family because nothing is done on commission. He's made my financial goals far more realistic by explaining what to do and why. The investment education they provide is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research, so you should do what I do. Check these guys out. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience, and you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest because that experience equals confidence. So do what I did. Talk to one of his team members today. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I've been on a little bit of a rant about these crimes against kids. I mentioned a story from The Guardian, which was put out last Thursday. It said a 23-year-old was arrested for gun possession, and it led the FBI to a global satanic cult. An arrest on a gun possession charge in Queens, New York in November of 2021 has led the FBI to a pedophilic, Satanist extortion cult that has victimized dozens, if not hundreds, of minors, according to law enforcement documents, court records, and sources with knowledge of the investigation. Law enforcement discovered the organization known as 764 and a range of aliases while investigating the alarming social media posts made by Angel Almeida, a 23-year-old resident of Astoria in Queens, New York. Now, on September 12, 2023, the FBI issued a public warning about 764, noting that the group is deliberately targeting minor victims on publicly available messaging platforms to extort them into recording or live streaming acts of self-harm and producing child sexual abuse material. The advisory is the first formal mention of 764 by any American law enforcement agency. This is crazy. Why isn't this a mainstream news story? Why isn't this on ABC News and on NBC and on CBS and on Fox and on CNN and on MSNBC? I mean, this group appears to target children between the ages of 8 and 17, the advisory notes, and particularly focuses on young people of color, youth identifying as LGBTQ, or youth who struggle with mental health issues. So these guys go after the absolute most vulnerable. Researchers familiar with 764 indicate that the group's members cultivate ties with minors through a wide range of platforms. Wildly popular games like Roblox. Do your kids play Roblox? Or gaming communication platforms like Discord and Twitch, as well as curated playlists on the streaming service SoundCloud. And of course, it's The Guardian, so they have to say this. The group's main form of communication is on Telegram, which has long been the platform of choice for many far-right extremists. I love how they tie in far-right extremists that use Telegram into this group, but that's another conversation for another day. The conversation today is focused on why is this not mainstream news? Why isn't anybody talking about this anywhere? So there's a group, 764. They target young kids between 8 and 17, and they target them on platforms like wildly popular games like Roblox or gaming communication platforms like Discord and Twitch, SoundCloud, Telegram. Do your kids use any of those? Seriously, like I'm not even trying to like call you out if they do. I'm trying to be like, look out, because nobody talks about this anywhere. And when I was doing my research over the weekend for the show today, this is the first time I've heard of 764. And I like to think that I'm in the weeds on a lot of this stuff, and I try to stay up on top of it because I got young kids myself, and I don't ever want any of them to be a victim. And it's terrible because members use threats, blackmail, and manipulation to get youth to record videos showing acts of self-harm, animal cruelty, sexual acts, and even suicide. The footage is then circulated among members to extort victims and exert control over them. In the group's channels, members share violent gore videos depicting torture, lethal violence, and other such acts in an effort to desensitize viewers to acts of ultra-violence. The key motivators for this group, according to authorities, is to gain notoriety and rise in status within their group. These people are sick. This should be, every parent in America should know about this, but I worry that nobody does. I mean, documents and sources familiar with 764 indicate that this group is an offshoot of a group called the Order of Nine Angles, O9A, a violent, subversive, esoteric Hitler worship, Satanism, and Wiccan tenets that American authorities recognize as a terrorist ideology. Have you ever heard of the Order of Nine Angels or Nine Angles? This has been connected with murders, attempted terrorist attacks in countries like the U.S., Britain, Germany, Canada, Russia. Sources with knowledge of the investigations, reports The Guardian, into 764, indicate that the group has a network of a couple thousand participants and hundreds of highly active members who generate and disseminate the bulk of the child pornography and gore videos found in the group's channels on Telegram, Discord, and more obscure platforms like Matrix. Do your kids use any of those? Telegram, Discord, Matrix? I'll be honest with you. The safest way to keep your kids safe from all this, like the most surefire way to keep your kids safe from this stuff is not let them have the technology. Keep the iPads away. Keep the iPhones away. Only let them use it when you're in the room. Be over their shoulder. Be a helicopter mom when it comes to the technology. Like that's the safest way to do it. But how did the FBI find out about this? Well, the FBI was directed to this guy, Almeida, from Queens, New York, by an anonymous tipster flagging his social media accounts. Thank goodness for vigilant citizens out there. It's the FBI isn't being proactive on this stuff. It was an anonymous tipster that flagged his accounts, which contained images of violence against children and violence against animals. And it's crazy to me because these social media networks, they didn't alert the authorities. Just like Instagram didn't alert the authorities on their promotion via algorithm of the vast pedophile networks on Instagram. While searching Almeida's apartment in New York, investigators found guns, books pertaining to the Order of the Nine Angles, and a flag bearing the insignia of an American O9A offshoot, the Temple of Blood, according to a November 2021 detention memorandum filed by federal prosecutors. The most telling item of O9A was a blood covenant featuring a blood-smeared drawing of a hooded figure with glowing red eyes surrounding the sigils for 4 O9A deities and the captured Vindix, the caption Vindix, Nithra, Satan, and Ubuntu. I mean, these people are literally Satanists. They're preying on your children, and nobody talks about it. There's another story that nobody's talking about. Children are disappearing from northern Ohio in record numbers. Do you know how many kids are missing from northern Ohio this year? 1,000 minors reported missing from northern Ohio so far this year. 1,000. Now, even if you want to say, oh, well, maybe some of those are runaways. Maybe some of those have to do with drugs. Maybe some of those have to do with gangs. 1,000 minors reported missing in Ohio this year. How come we don't have a ticker for that on CNN? How come? I feel like these problems could be solved rather quickly if they got the attention they deserved. But they don't get the attention they deserve. They get swept under the rug. More than 45 children have gone missing in the Cleveland-Akron area this month alone. And in August, there were more than 35 missing minors, according to the Ohio Attorney General's Missing Children website. These disappearances, according to the New York Post, are creating a disturbing trend in northern Ohio, which began in May, when nearly 30 children went missing in just the first 2 weeks. Officials are calling it an extraordinary surge in disappearances. Ohio Attorney General David Yost repeated on Monday that the number of missing children is alarming, says the New York Post, though he claimed the figure may be inflated due to inconsistencies in updating reports, which the Cleveland police have admitted to in the past. Okay, so even if the numbers are off, let's say let's just for the sake of argument, let's say 50% of them were misreports, runaways, and all that. Okay? Is 500 missing minors something to bat an eye at? Does that not deserve a full-scale what the hell is going on from the American public? This is just one city. I'd love to see the numbers in San Francisco. I'd love to see the numbers in Nashville. Are they worried about it? Yes, of course we're worried about that, the Attorney General told News 5 in Cleveland. Now, what we know is when we look behind the numbers, some of those represent repeated runaways. Yep, and I just mentioned that. And he added that the data for runaway cases, abductions, or sex trafficking is not always entered correctly as the state deals with police staffing shortage. Okay. Is 100 missing minors a good enough? If it's just 10%, is 100 missing minors something you're okay with? Is 50 missing minors something you're okay with? Because right now, they have more than 1,000 minors reported missing so far this year. Repeated runaways, sure, maybe that inflates the number some. But they're saying for some reason in 2023, we've seen a lot more than we normally see, which is troubling in part because we don't know what's going on with some of these kids, whether they're being trafficked or whether they're involved in gang activity or drugs. But nobody talks about it. This is one of those uncomfortable conversations you're not allowed to have. Just like nobody heard about the 23-year-old arrested for gun possession that led to the FBI finding a global satanic pedophile cult. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Got a text from a super texter, 8710. Says some 460,000 children go missing from the United States every year. 460,000. It's one of the reasons why I really like you guys on the super text line. You always add context to the conversation. 460,000 children go missing from the United States every year. Now, again, let's just run it. Let's run the numbers again. Let's say some of them are repeated runaways. Okay. Let's say some of them are drugs. Okay. Is 10% of 460,000, 46,000, that's something you're willing to deal with? Let's say 10% of that is being trafficked. 15%, 20%. Does that not deserve nationwide attention? I think it does. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. It just really messes with me because the media doesn't cover it. And then Joe Biden has an interview where he says Twitter is spreading misinformation. The media doesn't spread any information. The media doesn't make anybody aware of any of this. If it wasn't for these local news stations covering it, if it wasn't for outlets like the New York Post, which gets banned over reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop, would we know any of this? 0583 said drugs don't excuse or diminish the number of trafficked children. Drugs are often the bait method by which traffickers work. I wasn't trying to say that drugs would diminish the number. I'm saying if you're a drug addict and you run away from home, I've just tried to play devil's advocate and be like, okay, if the number of them being trafficked is 10% of 460K that go missing every year in the United States, is 46,000 something that we as a nation shouldn't be appalled at? And our borders wide open. The cartels are coming through. They're trafficking kids. We know this is happening. But nobody covers it. It's insane. 3290 texted and said, I haven't heard anyone on 99.7 talk about the Sound of Freedom movie. Why is that? I talked about it back in July when it was out and new. I think Sound of Freedom is a movie everybody should see.
We actually had a great interview around that time, too, that should still be on the website, that you had with, wasn't the director, who was it?
With Victor Marks.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Victor Marks, who deals with a lot of these child trafficking stuff. He knows the guys that are involved in Sound of Freedom. He wasn't directly tied in.
That's right.
But it was timely. I think that this is something that we need to pay attention to. Because nobody pays attention to it. It's just out of sight, out of mind. And if you talk to the average person on the street, they have no idea. They have no idea. 9058 also said even 1% is horrible. but yet George Floyd, a criminal, gets special treatment. It's so true. Imagine if we had the uprising and the protests for these 460,000 missing kids the way we did for George Floyd. We won't, because corporate sponsors in the news, they don't actually cover anything like this. It's just disappointing. But here we are. I want to shine a light on it for you because it means this kind of stuff hits home for me. I got 4 young kids. My advice to you, keep them away from technology. Keep the lines of communication open between you and them, and just stay alert. It's scary out there for parents these days. You know, we were raised by parents. If you got young kids right now, you were raised by parents for a world that you had no idea, that they had no idea about. And I feel sometimes the same way with my kids. We're raising them for a world that we have no idea about. You got to stay alert. You got to stay well read. You got to know what's going on. It's just sad. It's sad that as a society, this is how we protect our most vulnerable, by giving it little to no attention. And really, nobody in the media covers it. They just don't. Instead, you'll see ex-ABC News journalists sentenced to 6 years in prison for sadistic child porn, and that gets swept under the rug. Absolute garbage. 11:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Now, I'm new to WTN. I've only been here a couple months, but like you, I've heard the USS commercials on Super Talk for years. And recently, I had the chance to sit down and meet the guys that work there, and they're just like you would expect, honest, hardworking guys, and they're proud of the work they do. Now, if you haven't poked your head down in your crawl space in a while, like myself, I hadn't gone down in my crawl space for a minute. I got 4 young kids, so I just hadn't had it on the top of my priority list. Poked my head down there after we had a critter, and I realized, whoa, need some help. So I called the guys at USS. They told me when I met with them, we're a service that you don't know you need it until you know you need it. And once I poked my head down there, I knew I needed it. So poke your head in your crawl space and ask yourself, are you seeing any standing water? Have you noticed wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors? Well, that's your house trying to tell you something. And you can give the guys at USS a call to check it out, and they'll help you with whatever you need. Foundation repair, sinkhole remediation, basement wall realignment, crawl space, floor supports, crawl space encapsulation, all of that they can do for you and make a custom solution for your home. So if you need any of those services, if you're noticing that water in your crawl space, call them today, 615-488-7855. With 25,000 satisfied customers in Middle Tennessee, I am confident you will be 25,001. So call USS today, 615-488-7855, or online at USSTN.com.
Former President Trump in court today, and the effort to give House Speaker Kevin McCarthy the boot, it could start as soon as today. All this and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. My name is Chris Hand. I do want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask the hardworking guys out there, do you charge people a liberal tax when you're roofing or plumbing or, doing electric work? Or do you charge a liberal tax? Have you heard of this?
No, what is that?
All right, so there's a video going viral right now on the TikToks. I'm not on TikTok, but a friend sent it to me. It says this guy's charging people a liberal tax. He's a roofer. I'm not exactly sure where he is. I want to say he's in California somewhere, but this is what the liberal tax is. Ready?
Just another really expensive roof. Liberals drive on a BMW, so I charge another $15,000. And that's what you get for being liberal. I don't care if they watch this video either way, because there's no one else to roof, because your liberal government made everybody lazy by giving them serbs, and nobody wants to work. So I can treat people like act like a and they still got to pay me for their expensive whether they like it or not. And they got to pay 25% more because they're liberal. So welcome to the real world.
So do you charge a liberal tax in your business? I can't help but laugh at that.
I think I need to start a business so I can charge a liberal tax.
How do you know when to charge a liberal tax? Is it people that have a Ukraine flag hanging from their front porch?
That maybe it's just a gut feeling. Like you think start feeling a little sick? It's like,
yep,
charge.
I could tell. You might be a liberal. Is it? In this house we respect everyone, and we fund Ukraine. We vote blue no matter who in this house. Is it one of those signs on the lawn? So you just charge them an extra 15%? Do you charge a liberal tax with your business? I wouldn't blame you if you did. If you do, call me, because I'd love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. We won't put you on blast. We won't tell you where, but I'm sure there's some people in Davidson County, Franklin, Brentwood, that are out there charging a liberal tax.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, he nails it. He's like, it's not like you would know anyway. 4076 said, yep, I have subtle ways in initial conversation in finding out what people are about. And yes, the price goes up. 2626 says, no, I just have a suck charge for mine. If you suck, I charge appropriately. 7600 had the similar kind of thing to the suck charge. He says, that's all customers on how they act, not just liberals. If you're a jerk, it might just take a little bit longer. 3175, yes, we charge. 2307, I'm a business owner, and I did raise prices on some of my clients that had been paying the year 2000 prices. But if you want to stop and take a look at the big picture, all the ones that were paying the low prices were liberals. So yeah, I guess I raised the liberal price. Hilarious. 6324. LMAO. Yes, Chris, I do. Clean houses for years. Just picked up a couple that moved from Cali. I call it a pain in the ass fee. 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going to talk about the liberal tax next after Ken Weaver in the news.
11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. There is a cool down coming. Tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Opening statements underway in the civil real estate fraud case brought against former President Trump by New York State Attorney General Letitia James. Just before entering the courtroom in Manhattan, here's what the former president had to say.
This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time.
All ears and eyes on the House floor this week as Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz continues threats to oust Speaker Kevin McCarthy following his work with Democrats over the weekend to avoid a government shutdown. Jay O'Brien inside the Capitol says for now, the success of this type of action from Gaetz remains unclear.
We're watching to see how many House Republicans join Gaetz. It's unclear what the number is right now. If it's more than 5 House Republicans, McCarthy has to start offsetting. Once you get to that 5th Republican, have to start offsetting those with Democratic votes to keep him. And so does McCarthy work with Democrats? Does his office make overtures to Democrats?
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I asked if you had heard about the liberal tax. Do you own a small business? Do you own a business in general? Do you charge people a tax for being liberal? One viral video is of a guy who's a roofer, and he says, yes, I do charge a liberal tax.
Just another really expensive roof. Liberals drive on a BMW, so I charge another $15,000. And, that's what you get for being liberal. I don't care if they watch this video either way, because there's no one else to roof, because your liberal government made everybody lazy by giving them serbs, and nobody wants to work. So I can treat people like act like a and they're still going to pay me for their expensive whether they like it or not. And they got to pay 25% more because they're liberal. So welcome to the real world.
So I asked, do you guys charge a liberal tax? 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. Hey, line 2. Is it Andrew? Do you charge a liberal tax, my friend?
Kind of like what the other guy said. I call it the PIA fee. If I see Williamson County tags, it's getting jacked up at least 25%.
That's hilarious. So, like, what are your warning?
I mean, honestly, where I live, it's a small, like, vacay town. So it's slowly in the process of being gentrified by Williamson County people. So, like, if I see Williamson County tags, guaranteed extra cash going on top of it.
Dude, that's hilarious. All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate you, man. The liberal tax is real. Leland in Nashville, you say you charge people a liberal tax?
Yeah, man, we charge extra. First question I ask them is, "Hey, man, where y'all from?" And they'll say, "Oh, I'm from California." You know, if they say it proud like that, yeah, they're getting charged extra. But if they say it like they're a little bit of ashamed of it, you know, then I pretty much know they're on the same wavelength as me, and they just trying to get out of tyranny.
That's hilarious. So what is your liberal tax percentage?
Man, roughly 15.
15%, dude.
About 15%.
I love it. That's so funny. I appreciate the call. Thanks so much, Leland. Do you charge a liberal tax? 615-737-9986. I got one text. He said I've charged homeowners more if I see any evidence of being a Democrat. I also give customers a discount when they have a Trump flag. The liberal tax is real.
What if you have his mugshot up in your window?
Oh my gosh, that would have to get you a discount, right?
At least.
Keith texted in. He said, if we had a dumb person tax, Congress could fund the country. Yep, it's pretty true. Yep. Everybody's texted in. Yes, we charge. Yes. Somebody said, I have a set rate. I charge everyone. However, the conversation goes away. You might get a discount. Conservatives pay for everything. I feel like they deserve a break now and then. John says, I have Trump flags all over my house. Well, you're getting a discount, John. 9655. I work in the gun industry, and we refuse to sell to liberals. Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious. Jeremy texted. He said he charges people a liberal tax, and he uses it to buy firearms. So funny. Everybody's saying, be careful. There's a lot of conservatives in Williamson County, so be careful which people you're hitting with that liberal tax. 3581, 100%. I do sales in Williamson County. When I head to Belle Meade and they have a Harris, sticker, they're paying. I figure we're all paying. We might as well hit them with the Brentwood bump. We have the liberal Bob, and it's 20% across the top. If you don't need our services, no problem. Have a great day. 2482 said, I had a veteran come in my shop today with a Trump mug shirt on. I took care of his bill. So it seems like there is a liberal tax, and there's also a conservative discount. 4680 says, I own a cleaning company. Employ people, and yes, liberal tax. That's so funny. That's so funny that people are really there. There's a liberal tax. This is a real thing. Can you blame them? Can you? I mean, I don't blame you for charging a liberal tax. If I was providing a good or a service, I would charge a liberal tax. 9277 said, not a good practice, nor is it funny. Well, sir, you get what you vote for. You know, elections have consequences, as they say. And how can you blame people? I mean, look at what we're dealing with in the White House. Seriously, Joe Biden was in the Roosevelt Room just yesterday, and he's bragging about all these investments that they're making to deal with the climate crisis.
You know, protect we have transformational investments we're already making to deal with the climate crisis.
I can't imagine that those investments are helping many roofers. Can't imagine those investments are helping many electricians or plumbers. These investments to fight the climate crisis. So weird. Now, Biden was also asked about McCarthy versus Gates and who he's got. Whose side are you on, sir? McCarthy versus Gates. Would you support McCarthy, he was asked.
Speakership is now at risk. Should Democrats vote to help him keep that job?
I don't have a vote on that matter. I'll leave that to the leadership of the House and the Senate.
So very, very much a non-answer. Then he was he went on about McCarthy, and he pulled Mitch McConnell mid-speech. Did you guys see this?
I hope this experience for the Speaker has been one of a personal revelation. I'm not being facetious. Anyway.
What is going on with our president? He hopes that this has been a process of personal revelation. And then you hear him breathe.
Anyway.
We're not a serious country with this guy in charge. We're just not. I mean, what? What is going on with our president? When he does get the words out, it doesn't make any sense. And then now he's pulling Mitch McConnell's left and right. Then he asked about, are you concerned about America's reputation on the world stage, Mr. President?
Are you concerned about America's reputation on the world stage, given the level of brinksmanship we've seen this year?
Based on the mega Republican report, yes. Based on what my administration is doing, no. Thank you.
Based on what the MAGA Republicans are doing, yes. I'm very, very worried about our reputation on the world stage. Oh, just America First stuff that worries you. Based on what his administration is doing, he's not worried. When you see the rise of BRICS, it doesn't worry you. I don't know. I'm worried about our reputation on the world stage. You know, under Trump, we had no new wars. The economy was going pretty good. But under Biden, it seems like we're a laughingstock. The man literally can't even get a word out. Anyway.
Half expecting like a dial-up tone or something to start playing.
Oh my gosh, it does, right? Like the AOL.
Exactly. That or just a dead phone line.
It's terrible. Somebody 0093 said, dude, he sounds like someone who just shot up some heroin. Is that what that sounds like?
They're not a heroin family.
Yeah, no, they're a crack cocaine family, right? Oh my gosh. Anthony texted, he said, bro, what are we doing? We're just trying to make it to Friday. I know, it's only Monday. I'm sorry, guys. It's only Monday. So we got liberal taxes from business owners. That's a real thing. And it's because of Joe Biden and his economy. Elections have consequences. My gosh. Jeremy said it's a good thing saying mega Republican isn't a drinking game. Yep. We'd all have alcohol poisoning if that were the case. John said liberals hate capitalism and punitively tax businesses, so libs paying extra citizen tax. It's just embarrassing. 6598 not Biden is not in charge, and everyone knows it. Bill says he's an idiot. 2862. He's tired, man. He's ready to nap. He is ready to nap. Kathy says new nickname for Biden, Buffer and Biden.
Anyway.
I feel like that gives a bad name to buffering. Buffering is usually a little bit quicker. Oh, jeez. 7429 says, it's like Billy Madison. We're all dumber when we have to listen to one of his Biden speeches. Yep, this is true. Sandra says, Biden literally sounds like someone taking his last breath. Creepy. Is that what that sounds like?
Anyway.
1509 commented, he said, he couldn't understand the translator in his ear, so he stopped. 9058 says, was he sniffing hair? He was not. He was not. There was nobody near him. Sue says, wow, seriously? He's sucking wind, man. He is. It's embarrassing. We used to be a serious nation. We did. Well, on the bright side, we got another 45 days of talking about the impending government shutdown. That'll be exciting. 3789 said, it sounds like the killer in a horror movie breathing into the phone. Anyway. Phil says it's the death rattle. 0324. Somebody call hospice. Oh my gosh, you guys are hilarious. We used to be a serious place, but no longer are we. No. Luckily the government hasn't shut down. So we get to do more government things. It's exciting. I'm excited. You excited, Mason? Yep. Everybody's excited.
So excited.
This is the most exciting time. Funding the government's great. We got 45 days of money, I guess. Or, it's not even money. It's like we got another 45 days to rack up more debt before we argue about it the week before Thanksgiving.
I've heard of throwing money at the problem, but I think they're aiming in the wrong direction.
Oh, I don't think they're aiming at all.
Yeah, no, that's a fair statement for sure.
1148 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Matt Murphy's joining us next. He gets on at noon. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing education and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
$11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Matt Murphy joining me in studio. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Mr. Hand. How are you?
I'm good. Did you catch Joe Biden seizing up like Mitch McConnell over the weekend?
I think I might have seen this.
I hope this experience for the speaker has been one of a personal revelation.
Well, I guess better.
I'm not being facetious.
It's not a joke.
Not a joke. Natural fact.
Anyway, that's my favorite. Says anyway a lot.
He said,
and I love how the White House tries to spin it like, well, he just didn't want to go there.
It was deep and introspective.
Right. And, he didn't want to embarrass the spirit. That's what they say about all of these. Every time he loses his mind and he goes, anyway, or whatever he says. And, he just decided not to go there in that direction. Go where?
I wonder what it looks like in the transcript on the quote. Do they have it in there? Do they have the... It's like you're getting the soul sucked out of you by
I talked to a lot.
demon.
Over the weekend, I was surrounded by a lot of people that don't do what we do on a regular basis or what the listening audience does on a regular basis, which is immerse ourselves in this. And I did a poll. I did like informal polling.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of people that I talked to about it, they are convinced that Gavin Newsom's going to swoop in and steal this thing from the Democrats. And they are equally convinced that could be the most damaging thing for the future of the country if that happens.
Do you know what Joe Biden's thoughts are on that?
I would love to hear.
Anyway.
No, it's got to be it's got to be Newsom, or I could see Hillary trying to say it's my turn again.
Yeah,
I could see a Hillary Newsom. I could see a Michelle Obama.
I could see a Michelle Obama. I don't think Kamala's in the equation. Everybody knows.
No,
everybody knows that she's not the answer.
Except for the View host, Sonny Hostin, who says she'll lose the black vote if they get rid of Kamala.
I was excited about your theory. Gavin Newsom put that thing to bed.
What was my theory?
We talked about it. I don't know that I would call it a Chris Hand theory, but the possibility of Kamala deciding to, California's my home state. I need to do this for the good of California, go back to be a U.S. senator, and then that clears the deck. But nope. That's not going to happen because we had to get the pro-abortion activist in there.
Yeah, who's also a member of the community.
For standing up for an LGBTQ2 plus.
So she's a member. She's a member of the community. The new senator in California who also lives in Maryland.
I tried to do the math on how limiting your selection choices are. If you decide it's going to be female, so you strike half the country, black, African-American female, so you're down to about 6%. And now we're LGBT whatever.
I think it was...
For an LGBTQ.
I live my favorite part is that lady trying to help him.
LGBTQ.
That's good. I can help you, Mr. I can help you, Mr. Castro. Mr.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's tough. It's tough for him to remember.
That's so good. Well, we've got a couple of congressmen coming on.
Oh, fun. Who you got?
Got Desjardins and Burchett on, both no votes. I noticed something about the influence of this radio station, by the way.
Okay,
Your influence, my influence. Every representative in Tennessee within the WTN footprint voted no.
Based.
Every other representative voted yes.
Weird.
How about that?
I like it.
Shows me we need to expand that reach.
We got it. We got to get these numbers up. We got to pump them up. All right, Matt Murphy in next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.